up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Club. I am Justin.
I'm Pete.
And we are here. Alex is out tonight, so that means that the stakes just got high for the two goofs on the podcast. We are here to do it
when
upright.
No one's in charge. We can run free.
Yes, we can run free. I guess technically you could say that, or hide in our bunkers for the whole night. Pete, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm hanging in there, man. Thank you. How are you doing?
Doing great.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. I'm having some weird technical problem already.
Technical issue.
Great. I'm doing great. I'm wearing the devil on my t-shirt, which is a clue to our second guest. But why don't we get things started with our first guest?
I wish you would.
You wish we would? Well, then I will.
Yeah.
Our first guest, friend of the show, been on here many times, taking us back to the good old days at the Pit.
Yeah, the live shows we used to do.
Yeah, man.
Technically this is live, but I mean,
this is live. Believe me, I know it's live.
Space.
I'm on a tightrope. Right now, Pete. I know this is live. So our guest, he's got a great book out called Sew Buttons right now. The Kickstarter is out there, so please check it out. We'll talk about it more. Please welcome to the stage, Jonathan Baylis.
Hey! Welcome.
Live to tape. Great.
Yes.
Live to tape. Yes, exactly. Welcome out. How are you, Jonathan? We bumped into each other recently, and it was great to see.
Oh, wow. In real life?
It's in real life, because in our other lives, when we're not doing comic booky things, we are very highly trained filmic, television-ish professionals.
Yes, that's
like
exactly
that.
right. It was crazy.
Adjacent?
I saw Jonathan's name on a script that I was up for a job, and I was like, could that be the same guy? And lo and behold, we didn't communicate at all through the entire process until we saw each other, or I guess you were on one Zoom when we were casting, and then on set we were like, look at us.
Oh.
It was funny. The guy who ran the production company, he wrote me, and he's like, hey, I saw your name on a script, and we're hiring this guy that maybe you know. And sure enough, I was like, I know that guy. That's small world. Small world.
You were like, don't hire him. Don't hire him.
12 people in the industry. Yeah,
it is true. But speaking of the industry, especially the film industry, let's talk about Sew Buttons.
Yes.
What would you call Sew Buttons? Is it like a series? How does it work? Because
Sew
this
Buttons,
is a comic you've had in different iterations for quite some time, right?
Sure. So Sew Buttons is a series. It's an autobiographical series in the vein of Harvey Pekar. If anyone knows Harvey Pekar and American Splendor, maybe they saw the movie American Splendor. And I come out with these like clockwork once a year, every year. And this is issue 13 that I'm kind of subtitling it Film School. Like it's on Kickstarter as Sew Buttons Film School, because there's a lot of film references in there, probably because I wrote a lot of it during the pandemic and I was home just watching movies. But, and the concept is I do the writing and I find all different kinds of artists to interpret the art, and I will tailor these stories kind of based on what they can do. Like what I got on screen right now is So Swampy, and it's kind of about how my, grandmother, when I was at summer camp, sent me, she knew I liked comics, sent me a bunch of comic books. They were all Archie comics, except for one Alan Moore Swamp Thing. And it like changed everything. And the guy, Tony Wolf, who drew it, I've seen him draw Swamp Thing before in some of his work. So I was like, oh, he would be perfect for it. So he did a great job there.
Yeah,
that's great. So you have like a sniper target on different artists that you choose for your different pieces.
I do. Like, the next one that you're showing right here, right? So this one is drawn by a guy named Joe Zabel. So Joe Zabel is one of these, I want to say, he's like an old school Harvey Pekar artist. Like, he drew for Pekar 20 years ago. And I met him at a small press convention called Small Press Expo that's held in Bethesda, Maryland each year. And, I gave him my work. I was like, oh, I do the same kind of thing that Harvey does. Maybe you'd be interested in working with me. And he was like, yeah, sure. So I drew a story about how I was working at Sundance Channel, and every year we would work at the film festivals. And they were showing that American Splendor film one year, and I met Harvey Picar there, and I was like,
Oh,
I
wow.
kind of want to do this thing, and the guy's like, you can do this thing. So in a way, it's like a little bit of an origin story.
Yeah,
You got a blessing. That's nice.
the
Yeah, it's
blessing of
very
Harvey. I
nice.
love you sat behind him at the premiere of the movie, and you sort
Yeah,
of do you combine your origin with talking a little bit about Spider-Man here. I feel like it comes together in such a nice piece. And
Yeah.
yeah. Well, because the guy. So when I was working at Sundance, one of my, like I was a PA, but there was a producer, like a promo producer, a guy named Tom Powers, and Tom Powers was a guy that was really connected in the comics world. He was an editor at the Comics Journal for Fantagraphics. He roomed with this guy Joe Sacco, who is probably pretty relevant right now because he did a graphic novel called Palestine, and he's done autobio comics, and so he knew Harvey Picar. So when this thing happened at the Sundance Film Festival, Tom Powers, who then became like a director of or curator of documentary films and documentary film festivals, he was just like he connected those two worlds. So he brought Harvey to the premiere at Sundance, and because I knew Tom was like, he's like, oh yeah, come along, and sit behind us or whatever. And so I got to meet Harvey. I sat behind them, watched the movie, and I still think that's one of the better movies ever made. It's like used all
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
animation technique, documentary technique, narrative technique. Paul Giamatti was like
I
a
mean,
star-making performance. It was great.
yeah.
truly.
Yeah, they did such a great job on that movie for sure.
Oh,
But what I wanted to say to get back to So Buttons here is,
sure.
first off, love the title. I love
Oh,
how
thanks.
pulpy this is, the great kind of like old school feel to it. I love your kind of thought process and how we're kind of brought into your world. It's just, I love all the nerdy heart in this that kind of jumps out at me.
There's a lot of nerdiness. I mean, I learned how to read through comics. Like my mom gave me, Spider-Man to read in the Bronx, when I was 3 years
Yeah.
old. So,
And
it's been all comics all my whole life. Yeah, Justin.
I was gonna say, I like how you cross all sort of the nerd channels in the
Yeah.
13th issue here, from
Yeah,
film to
yeah.
TV to comics.
The comics. Yeah. It's as nerd fest as it gets in this one.
Nice.
Now, as the sort of taking forward the torch of Harvey Picar, I guess we could say, like,
Sure.
how does that feel now? I feel like the Harvey's time, we've definitely moved past that in comics, not to say creatively, but just like that era, it feels like it's changed. Like, what is it like on your end as someone who's really out there doing it?
So, I just got a handful of reviews in on the book, and probably more than ever. I mean, specifically because I use 3 or 4 of Harvey's artists in this issue. There are people who go like, "Oh, he like whatever. He's the new Harvey, or he's doing what Harvey did." There's a lot of like Harvey, and
And you're like, Harvey told me I was, so that
I have
makes total
zero
sense.
problem with it.
Yeah.
I have zero problem with it. I mean, I think most small press creators are self-sustaining because there's like sort of there's no money, right? So it's sort of like you do it all because only you can do it all. And I think
Right.
because I have a day job, I've always been able to, find artists, hire artists, pay them money, and that's like a special thing on that
Yeah,
side
it
of
is.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from what I hear, like these days, it's sort of like my rates might be, some bigger company rates. So which is a little
Wow.
sad state of the
Yeah.
bigger
But
companies.
good for you to pay people what they deserve. That's awesome.
That's like it's always been the case. It's just always been the case.
Awesome.
All artists should be paid, and like my wife is is an artist and a performer. She's a comedian, and it's like same thing. It's like be like pay the artist. That somehow everyone wants to screw the artist, but like that's who needs to be paid. Talent should be paid. It's it's worth something.
Yeah. It's almost worth striking for every now and again,
for
depending on your
sure.
industry.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the fact that a lot of strikes are going on. I mean, the thing about comics, like right now, there's a whole thing where a younger generation, they are really seeing what happened to all these older guys in Marvel did not support them. They don't have 401ks. They would, they retire, losing a limb, while Liechtenstein, whatever is stealing your work. But they want a living wage. But the flip side of that is that the living wage is hard when the sales of books are, it's like they're like, these rates are the same as they were 20 years ago. And I go, the sales are lower than they were 20 years ago also. So it's a tough thing. You're almost better doing the Kickstarter model. Seriously. It's like, like you're going to get most of that money and more. That, like, the money that I'm getting from this Kickstarter will certainly be more than most of the small press publishers. Like, it would be more money than Fantagraphics would give me, more money than Top Shelf would give me, than Drawn and Quarterly would give me, for a floppy book,
Right.
So
then see, that's so I wouldn't have guessed that, but that's so interesting to hear. And let's talk about the Kickstarter, because you have 8 days to go. You are
8 days to go.
You are well over your goal.
It's true. I thank you. I put the goal for, like, printing the books. I was like, let me just at least print the books. So now trying to raise more money and give little bonuses. Like, at first it was just going to be like a regular floppy, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to put spot gloss on it. So now everyone got an upgrade. So now the next goal will be like, I had a guy who's an original Garbage Pail Kids artist that I met when I was at the Topps Company. He did a cover of one of my books, and I turned it into a trading card, but I couldn't get a sticker made that had they would do printing on the back too, like the cards. But I finally got a place, and so great. So I'm making those stickers, but I'm also going to do a process zine where I'm showing, like, the script and some thumbnails and whatever.
Oh, cool.
And any money, further raised basically will then cover artist costs, So, hopefully by the end of it, like, just the entire thing will be funded, not nuts to bolts. And, and then I start anew for next year.
Awesome.
That's great. I love it, because you getting the artist paid and showing the process, I think, is sort of that torch passing down to the next generation in a really nice way. Like, showing people how to do it and paying people what they're worth is, like, the biggest thing you can do. One autobio comic a year, basically, in this series. So how do you, like, put together the stories? Or, like, are you like, that's going in, I just had a crazy trip to the grocery store? Or how does it work?
Sometimes, right? Because it's a mixture. Like, there are stories that take 10 years to write, and there are stories that take, an hour to write. It's sort of like musicians, right? It's like every once in a while, it's like, something at Kent State happens. Neil Young goes off into the woods and, writes a song. But I'm no Neil Young, but I did marry a Canadian. But
and that's as close as you can get.
That's as close as I'm getting.
Good for you.
But yeah, so I will overwrite is what happens, right? So, like, each issue is like a slightly different length. So I thought I wasn't going to get a 20-page issue this year, and in the end, it was 32. And it depends, like, what goes out and also what comes in. So I had over 20 pages, basically, written, plan, people on them. People absolutely committed to doing it. And as they came in with this particular issue, what I like about what happened with this issue is that because there's the film touch points and the comic touch points, there's a through line from beginning to end. It's not like a bunch of staccato moments, at least to me. I think a lot of these stories do speak to each other in a way. Like, it's sort of like, the fact that I will have this Sundance Film Festival story with Harvey Pekar, then I do a Sundance Film Festival story about 28 days later, directed by Danny Boyle, and there are zombies in there, and then I talk about being an exhausted dad like a zombie, and have another artist with Taylor draw that. So I mean, there's a certain flow to it, and sometimes I'll see two stories and I go, in the middle, I either need like another 1-pager or 2-pager, or sometimes just an illustration. Like, I have a few people who are not sequential artists, but they are like amazing illustrators. And I go, go ahead and, so I did this story that was sort of a parallel between, it talks about how, sound effects, words, and images is to comics like film score music is to film, and it's about
Yeah, that's a
Ennio
lot of fun too.
Morricone, and
Oh yeah, I love that one.
it's great, right? And
Love
in
it.
the movie Once Upon a Time in the West, there's this guy that, and he's only in the opening of the film, a guy named Jack Elam, and you've seen him in a lot of movies, a lot of westerns, but also like the Cannonball Run, and he's got like a crazy eye. And so I asked my artist, I said, hey, why don't you, draw me this character? Because in the past he drew Linda Blair from The Exorcist, he drew Lon Chaney from London After Midnight, and so like give me kind of a horror take on Jack Elam, and he actually just created a film that doesn't exist. Like, some people are going to look at this image and they're going to go, oh, I haven't seen that movie, I want to see
Yeah, I
that
want
movie.
that. Yeah,
But we made it up.
totally.
We just made it up.
Well,
we wrote a tagline in Italian, and like it's
making
totally
a
made
poster
up.
that legit makes it seem real. That's the
Yeah.
point.
Definitely.
Yeah, that guy's name is Miguel Echemendia, and I think he's from Chicago. Great artist.
Cool.
Really great. I mean, this book feels like, especially film school, feels like something you could be like, oh, you want to see my resume? Read this comic, and I think you're going to want to hire me for any job in any aspect of entertainment.
It's funny. That's how I got into film school. I got into film school because I, instead of writing an essay, I wrote a script.
Oh,
It's like, like one of those essays. Who are the 3 people you would have dinner with, or whatever? And I wrote a script that was like a Johnny Carson script. It's like, he's interviewing. I mean,
awesome.
like the most trite thing ever. It's like, oh, he's interviewing Jesus and Charles Manson and Lincoln. Like whatever, like ridiculous nonsense.
That's
but
great.
but that I got in.
It'll get you, get you where you need to go.
Yeah,
now, have you decided on your theme for your next issue, your next year's issue, or are you still?
Yeah. So I met this guy. Have you guys heard of Kitchen Sink Press? Like it was like an underground comics, right, from 70s, 80s. So I met Dennis Kitchen, who the name comes from. Nice guy from Wisconsin. Now he's in Massachusetts, and he, I gave him a bunch of So Buttons books, and so he went to his archive and he sent me a bunch of undergrounds. And So Buttons is, it's not the edgiest of comics. It's like, it's enjoyable, it's relatable, there's heart, there's laughs, whatever, but like I haven't really pushed a lot of boundaries. And he inspired me to become OCD and buy 150 underground comics. And then I decided I'm going to put them in chronological order so I could read the underground in order. And then, I'm going to do an underground inspired So Buttons book. So it'll be a little edgier, but it'll still be So Buttons. Like I was talking to this guy today who reviewed my book, a guy named Rob Clow. He's like, yeah, you should do that. You should push. And I go, yeah. There's going to be penis, but it's going to be cute penis.
Cute penis. That's the only
googly eyes on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like Spider-Man's penis from Rain.
That was
years ago.
Yeah. So I'm doing that, and I'm working on a 100-page graphic novel. I'm finally doing a longer form. I've got a cabinet in my house that just has, fill those Post-it notes, I'll have a 100-page graphic novel, and I'm like 5 Post-it notes away.
Wow. Ooh. And is this autobio as well, or is it something totally
different? Is like it. So I found out recently, I did like Ancestry and 23andMe, and found out that I'm a quarter Japanese.
Ooh, a quarter? Wow.
A quarter. And so I was like, well, that's crazy. He's like, I did one of them. And I was like, that's crazy. Let me do a second one. And it came up with the same result. And so I was like, oh, maybe. So I was like, let me go to my mom, because it was like her father was like a little bit of a mystery. Like, did he die? Did he leave? What happened? Who was he? I don't know. So I got her DNA, and she also did it twice, and she is 50% Japanese. And it's like one of these things where you go, she's Russian. Like, I thought she was Russian, like all Russian. And we're like, oh, she's one of those Russians that's like on the border of like Mongolia or China or something like that, right? And turns out, no, she's 50% Japanese. And not only that, turns out 100% adopted. So it's like, and she did not know it. And so
huge revelations there.
Huge revelation. And there's a lot of story there. There's a lot of story there because I grew up in a town in Westchester called Harrison, and in Harrison, they had a Japanese school because there was like one of these things in the 80s where Japanese businessmen came to Harrison because IBM was there, and they learned techniques for 5 years or whatever, and brought those lessons back to Japan to build IBM in Japan. So we had, a ton of origami books in the library. I became an origami kid. A lot of manga, and so I grew up with all of these with all this Japanese culture, and I did not know that I was actually Japanese myself.
Wow.
So yeah, it's interesting.
I love that you do autobiographical comics, and you found the most intensely autobiographical story to do it's like your body, wild. Your DNA was saving it for when you needed it most.
Yes.
But before we get there, so we'll look forward to that sometime in the future in 5 Post-it notes, I guess.
Yes, 5 Post-it notes.
5 Post-it notes away.
But for So Buttons Film School, check out the Kickstarter is what we want people to do, right?
Yeah. So you go to, you can see the name down there. It's So Buttons. If you look up So Buttons or So Buttons Film School, you'll come to this Kickstarter. I'm selling, the book itself, the floppy. It's like $10. But I'm selling full packages. Also, I'm selling. A few of the artists want to do sketches. So the guy who did the story Once Upon a Time in the Old West story is Rick Parker, who was like one of the great Marvel letters. But then he did Beavis and Butthead. So he does a lot of great gags. He's doing sketches. A guy named T.J. Kirsch, who's been in every single book of mine, he's doing sketches. A guy named Phil Elliott, who's like a legend in the UK underground. Like he came up with Eddie Campbell and that scene in the 70s and 80s in England. He's doing a few sketches. So it's
That's
so
awesome.
there's a lot there to get if you want to expand beyond just the one issue. And I'm doing it digital, I'm doing it print, whatever you want.
Hey, whatever you're into.
Fantastic. Jonathan, great to have you. The book's great.
Thank you so much.
Great to see you. We'll do a live show again and get us back on stage together to have some
fun. I would love it.
Yeah.
Get my wife to do some stand-up.
All right.
Yeah. Tell Afiro we said what up. I always love seeing her as well.
She is, get this, she's opening for Anthony Jeselnik at Carnegie Hall on Friday.
Oh, wow. Shouts to that. That's
I know,
exciting.
that's amazing. That is amazing. So anyway,
huge.
All right,
Playing
cool.
Carnegie Hall is some sort of everyone's dream, so that's great.
Gotta practice.
You gotta practice. Well, enjoy that. Backstage maybe for you. Perfect spot to watch.
Maybe. We'll see.
Good luck with the book. It's so fun.
Thanks.
We'll see you soon,
congrats,
Jonathan. Have a good
All right. Take it easy.
Jonathan Baylis.
Man.
Check out So Buttons Film School, the Kickstarter. Support it, and you'll get yourself a copy of that when it comes out, or any of the So Buttons books.
Support that guy. He's
there
fantastic.
are 12 of them. He puts a whole year of work into it. I haven't worked that hard on one thing, and not even my children. So that's
man, that's you hate to hear that.
You hate to hear it. You love to hear it. But let's move on to our next guest. Very excited for this next guest. He's the writer of a book called Let Me Out from Oni that is out on the stands now, which we really enjoyed reading. Please welcome out to the Rectangles, Emmett Nahil, everybody.
Woo-hoo!
Hey.
Welcome.
Hi, folks.
Hey, what's going on?
Hi. Pleased to be here. Glad to be on the show.
Yeah. Before we get into the book, I just want to say we have our chef. Like all podcasts, we have our official CBC chef.
That's right,
Stray Bullet, who makes Brett Macris. He's a chef down in New Orleans. But he saw your book and he wanted to do a cocktail for it. So we have this cocktail. It's hard to read because it's so tiny, but it's Let Me In Your Mouth. a tequila and Aperol cocktail. I'll send this to you, Emmett, so you can
Amazing.
but it's a great drink. It's what I'm drinking right now. It's got a nice smoked paprika hit on top of it. It's very good. So take that home for when you have your next Let Me Out after party.
I will. That's fantastic. I love a good spicy cocktail. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's got that heat. But speaking of that heat, let's talk about the book, Let Me Out. I love this. It was such a tense read, and then it opens up, and then we won't talk about, we won't spoil anything, but and then it turns into an absolute melee by the end. So it's fantastic. Tell us about the book and how you came about it.
Yeah. Number one, thank you so much. Appreciate it a lot. That means a lot. So George Williams is the artist and illustrator on the project in general. I just do the writing part. But basically,
that's a lot of it, though.
Yeah, it's enough. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it.
Yeah, so we first basically got connected over the website formerly known as twitter.com. So we had been following each other. I had been coming up with the idea just generally for a satanic panic, queer take on the satanic panic, basically.
Yeah.
And I ended up sort of reaching out to George. We ended up hooking up and getting connected on what we wanted the book to be, which was awesome. And that collaboration sort of took off from there, really. We ended up working together, pulling up some sample pages, and it was a really easy collaboration with him. It was just a really it was the easiest collaboration with an artist that I've had in a long time.
Oh, wow.
We have a very similar, I guess, ethos and sense of tastes, I guess, artistically. And yeah, so we ended up running the Kickstarter, what funded successfully for the Kickstarter itself, and then Oni Press reached out to publish the print version of the book.
Which was they reached out to you? That's so nice.
Yeah, it was great. We chatted with them a little bit before the Kickstarter. My agent was involved in the whole process in general. And initially they'd said, maybe not. But afterwards they were like, yes, absolutely. We know that there's an audience for this book, and we'd love to be the ones to bring it to print, which was pretty dope to hear.
Yeah,
that's so
definitely.
Cool. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, I really love this. I love the character designs, the art style, the way it kind of pulls you into the story, but also just the pace, the action, all that it encompasses. It really puts you on just such an amazing journey. And sometimes when you go into comics, you're like, is all this time going to be worth the payoff? And you really stick the landing. I'm so impressed overall with the package and the kind of the experience that you're giving the reader. Talk to us a little bit about your process, how you kind of work that all out. And did you start from the end first, or how did it all go down?
Yeah. So this is my first full-length graphic novel. It's not my first comic project. I also work in, private, I work as a game developer as well, my day job basically, and I'm a narrative designer for games in there as well. So I do a lot of writing generally. This wasn't my first venture.
Well, and I think it's interesting to hear about the game development, because it does, I feel like you move into a boss level phase at the end of it.
Yeah, definitely.
in a great progressive way. So
yeah, I'm glad that's kind of the sensation, because I really wanted it to be a very pacey experience and have that sort of slow build, and then towards the end have something.
It definitely does. Yeah.
So
great.
So I'm glad to hear that worked. But I usually, when I'm working on projects for myself or with only one collaborator, I tend to think of the ending scenes or the ending motif before I really work out anything else. And I work backwards from there, not literally in terms of writing, but
writing backwards fits with the story a little bit.
Oh, hey, don't spoil.
But yeah, I came up with sort of the final image that was in my head, and obviously George made it 10 times as amazing as it could have been otherwise. But that came first, and then I really built up, okay, I want to do this type of comic. What kind of characters would be in this situation? You know, how do we get from 0 to 100 basically in reverse? Yeah. So
cool.
Well, you definitely do that. And like from a pacing perspective, you do ratchet up the tension. It's rare, I guess, in a book that is about sort of dark forces, I guess I should say, that like that part is sort of boiling the whole time, but the real tension is just in the day-to-day lives of our main characters here. And I love that. Now, what, I don't know, like, did you, setting it in this small town, pitting everybody in their corners, where was your inspiration for that?
I think that a lot of it was sort of coming off of the idea of these are real historical events that maybe not like the most like fantastical satanic parts didn't
Right.
but the idea of like the satanic panic was really something that went on in America, obviously, before my time, I will say that. But you know, it was something that was legitimately tearing these sort of small communities apart based on these, you know, relatively minor differences in like interest, personality, identity, like, and so I really pulled from a lot of that when looking at those conflicts personally. Yeah.
It's great, and it's scary the way that, I mean, it plays, especially in this, like a real witch hunt and conspiracy. And again, I don't want to say too much because the reveals and surprises are so good, so well paced out in the book. But that's hard to do. About the art, the art also surprised me. It feels like sort of what you'd expect from a like fun slice of life story, and then you get this like very, you know, high tension story across all the characters. Was that a deliberate choice, or was that something that George brought in?
George's style, I think that he is remarkably consistent across his style. That's just how he tends to render. And in looking at that and in looking at his general style, he's also a huge fan of horror, but he has worked in, you know, kids' work as well. He's worked in middle grade and young adult as well. And so even though we were thinking of this book as a sort of early adult book, I wanted to have that feeling of slipperiness too. And I thought George's work just organically works really well in that space, because as much as he does have that sort of like somewhat more friendly aesthetic and like a little bit grittier style, he also loves to draw gore. Like he loves that shit. Like we both are huge like horror enthusiasts and like have a lot of similar cinematic inspirations for some of those panels. And so he's just like, oh great, I don't have to tone this down at all. And I just sort of was like, yeah, go do your thing, make it as wild as you want it to be and as psychedelic as you want it to be.
Nice.
It definitely gets there. Now, without saying anything, the end is a massive cliffhanger that I was like, surely there's more pages after this. Are there going to be more pages? Are you working on the next one? Not to jump all the way to the future, but
so I won't say anything just yet about another book. But okay. it's been in our heads really. We initially, for this first project, it was framed around the idea of here's the time that we want to make the book in, because we didn't know we would be working with a publisher really. Right. So we were pacing ourselves out. I was like, okay, here's how much I think I can raise money-wise to pay you as an artist appropriately and to pay you for your time. So with that in mind, I do feel it was left on a cliffhanger, and I've heard comments. We are taking in that idea of maybe potentially continuing in the future. Yeah.
Great. That gives me enough of a hope / spark that there will be more, because you really fall in love with these characters over the course of it and want them to wreck shit, if I can say that very literally, across this small town.
Absolutely love it, though. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So is there anything else you're working on that you can tell us about? Since this is on the stands now, so everyone can go get this
get it
where all comic books and books are sold.
Yeah, although I will say I believe it's on back order already, so maybe contact your local comic shop
Back order, the
and
dream.
yeah, make sure that you can get it. I won't. I know for sure it's on the Evil Empire, Amazon for sure. You'd have to just check in with your local comic shop and indie bookshops and make sure
Yeah.
that you can get it. But yeah, so I personally, on my end, I have a nautical horror novel coming out this summer.
wow.
Not a comic, unfortunately,
Oh.
but a novel. It's my first full length book.
Oh, awesome.
And George and I are working on other stuff together as well. It's something sort of UFO themed as well that we're thinking of. Sort of a road trip. X-Files meets the video game Control, if you're familiar with that at all.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's some other interesting like conspiracy theory, fun wackiness afoot between us two as a collaboration, just because it was so fun working with him for Let Me Out. Yeah.
And let me say successful, it feels like.
Yeah.
Right? I do have a question about, you said a nautical horror?
Yes. Yeah.
What is drawing you to the sea, I guess? Or what's the nautical horror that you love out there?
Yeah. So I am from Eastern Mass and have lived there pretty much my whole life. So I've always been like, I've never lived further than like 10 minutes away from the ocean. But
Nice.
that being said, I love movies like Lighthouse and other sort of like, maybe not directly Lovecraft, but maybe Lovecraft loosely inspired type works.
Yeah.
Because he's a piece of shit, and I think we can do better than that.
But that's a great take. I love that take. I love Lovecraft. Not him. He sucks, but some of the vibe is good.
Yeah, and so it's a nautical whaling horror about a sort of doomed whaling ship. The sailors on board pull up a man out of the stomach of a whale, and horrifying shit ensues. So that will be coming from Tenebris Press in early summer, late spring this year.
That sounds awesome. I mean, being on a ship is pretty horrible just in real life back then. So I can imagine what hell you're going to bring for these poor heart of the sea motherfuckers.
Yeah.
You're out there. Emmett, thank you for being here. The book is fantastic. Everybody go check it out. We'll see you soon. Come back. I know it's not a comic, but I'd like to hear you talk more about that nautical.
Of course. Anytime. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Thanks for being here.
Pleasure.
See you soon.
Bye.
Emmett Nahil, everybody, with Let Me Out from Oni Press.
Oh, man, it's a banger, dude.
It's a banger, yes.
Yeah.
And very excited to of the idea. Whoops, there you are back.
Whoopsie.
Very excited that we may have a future sequel coming down the line. Pete, it's you and I. We're back. We're here. Hit us up. That means it's time for our favorite section because you make it up. It's time for your audience question. So if you have a question, hit us up there in the comments. It could be a question about anything. Stanley says, talk dirt about Alex. How could we talk dirt about our guy, Alex? What would we even say on record? Because he will see this, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but we should, Stanley asked us to talk dirt about him, so we should. So, I'll kick it up. I'll start. I'll just be like, oh, man.
Do you have a prepared
the guy who does so much for our show, he drives me crazy, that guy. Oh, wow. He works so hard to make sure we can put out podcasts and have fun and pursue our dreams.
You love him, but
you're an asshole.
You love him, but you're shaking your fist at him.
That's right.
That's beautiful. What a great friendship to be. Before we go further, though, I got to say, what you drinking, Pete? This is a classic section.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not drinking anything I'm proud of. I'm drinking a Michelob Ultra.
Oh, sorry. Are you in a club at 3 a.m.? Is everything all right over there? Are you on a bachelor party in Vegas right now? Is that what's happening?
My brother was at some like charity event, and he won an auction, which was like a drink. He won like a whole bunch of drinks, so we got a bunch of Michelob Ultra. So, drinking it for free.
Well, that's the only way to enjoy a drink called Ultra. I'm drinking the Stray Bullets cocktail. Let me in your mouth. It is fantastic. Very good.
Stray Bullies does it again.
Stray Bullies does it again. I use my grapefruit tequila that I make in house, and it's adding a whole nother
from scratch.
Yeah, it's just infuse it really quickly. Stray Bullet, while we're talking about him, has our second question. Just a quick question here. Where the fuck is Alex?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if
reading of the Marvels right now.
Yeah, I'd repeat blowing up. I wasn't going to be that obvious about it, but yes, he is seeing the next Marvel Cinematic Universe production, the Marvels. So we will hear his take sometime in the future. Can't wait. Looking forward to Alex seeing that movie. He's in the middle of it right now.
Oh man, he's probably eating popcorn.
Yeah, oh man, he's probably more nervous that he's not here. Because when you think about it, I will miss shows sometimes. Pete will miss shows sometimes. Alex, steadfast,
not so much.
Never misses. When in fact him not being here, he was like, "You guys okay?" I was like, "Yeah." And I got on here earlier today. I was like trying to figure out the buttons. So it's good. We're all grown up now.
Yeah,
a lot of these questions are what happened to Alex.
Yeah, where is Alex, Dad?
But here is a good one. Alex eaten by a whale, says Kevin.
Yeah.
Highly possible. Also from Kevin, what is your best story about the person in the other rectangle? However you want to define best story. That means, Pete, your best story about me. And for me, my best story about you.
Wow. Best story about Justin.
That's tough because we've experienced a lot of things together.
Yep.
We also know a lot of stories about each other from life. I'll go first and just return us once again, since we have a nautical theme, to our time on the Comic-Con on a cruise ship, where Pete and I shared a bed, not just a bedroom. We shared a bed because that's what they put us up in. Alex got his own room with his family.
With his family, he got to bring his family. You have a family.
I have a family, and
you're married with children.
That family is Pete LePage, because at sea, it's you and me, is what I always say.
Oh man.
So we got on the ship, and when you get on, they're like, "Do you want to do all-inclusive alcohol?" And Pete and I are like, "No, that's crazy. We're not going to drink that much." It was like $200.
No, it was $300, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's so expensive." You know what I mean? Because I was thinking about when I go out in bars in New York City, but what I wasn't thinking about is I know bartenders, and there's friends, and there's buybacks, but that's not a thing.
And you're not drinking all day on a ship. Yeah. We ended up hitting the same amount of money that we would have paid for the first night.
The first night we blew $300.
We are smart.
Like, we should have taken that. Yeah.
But I will say that was an absolute blast. We partied. We met a bunch of strange people. We hung out with who did we hang out with a ton?
We hung out with a lot
Baker. Was that? Who was our guy who rode along with us for someone? No, Brian Azzarello. Brian Azzarello.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, we rolled with Azzarello for a while, which was fun.
Yeah.
I to kind of talk about it was fun because we also met another person, and it was like the three of us wanted to go get drunk and go dancing, which was something that I don't normally do. And it was a weird kind of fun experience of like being drunk on a boat and then just kind of like howling at the moon and stuff like that, which I was like, I think it was because we were sleep deprived, and also like you're kind of eating the same food. You know what I mean? You watch like first night, it's like, oh, we got this amazing chicken. And then it's like, okay, now it's chicken parm. We're like, okay. And then now it's chicken soup. And we're like, oh, I see what's happening here. This is getting a little weird, you know?
The shouts to upstate New York, Beef on Weck. They had a Beef on Weck stand.
Oh, I hit that up.
We ate too much of it. If we were on that ship right now, we would be dead. Because that was too much consumption across the board.
It is. That's the thing about it, is it's too much. And I was like, really, I remember so crazy tired, but then I decided just to go and work out instead of sleeping. And I got real cracked out, man.
Well, that sounds straight up insane. You worked out? When were you working out?
Yeah, I brought my drink to the gym and I was working out. It got weird.
Yeah, that's less healthy. That makes it worse. That's worse for you. That's like reverse exercise.
Well, it
Plus,
kept
what?
me
Well, you
going.
were down there doing like squats? Were you just pumping iron?
Yeah, dude, I was, getting some cardio in, doing some weights,
Sick.
it's kind of.
I've never woken up hungover and be like, "What did I do last night?" Oh, I got my personal best on the bench.
I was
Sick.
at the gym.
Wow, I woke up with these weights in my hand. Great. See, look, we keep surprising each other no matter what we do, where we go, and what we do. It's amazing. Get us on that ship. Let's go, Comic-Con cruise.
Yeah,
It only happened once. It only happened the one time, and we were there.
Mhm.
And we were there.
That's
Next
right.
question from Pablo. What's the comic you would like to see as an animated series or anime? Great question, especially right now. We've got the Invincible series. We're doing our own podcast, Podvincible, about that show, which we're very excited to have back. Pete, what's a comic you'd like to see as an animated series or anime?
Well, I think it would be cool if like HBO or something did a Concrete, because it's like a little moody and a little darker, and I think that would be a fun kind of like animated thing, but also something that's a little brighter and great that I would hope like Netflix or something would jump on is Mouse Guard.
Oh, great call. That
Yeah.
would be a great.
I think it's
especially-
tailor made for either an animated movie or just like an animated TV series, something.
That's really smart. There's you ever see the animated Lord of the Rings by Ralph Bakshi?
Yeah.
And Mouse Guard in that style, like a classic.
Oh yeah.
80s, 70s, 80s Bakshi, like very sick. Stray Bullet coming in strong
Corrected
with
me, yeah.
Pete Yosagi.
Yeah, you're
Hello.
right. I should have done a little Yojimbo for sure. Yeah.
Maybe they should do with like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated thing.
Yeah, you think that would be popular?
That would be fun. That would be fun. Some sort of mutant mayhem. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I'm going to give it up to similarly an older comic as well, Bone, Jeff Smith's Bone.
Yeah, how has that not been?
Give me an animated series of that. I got to feel. I think that had been in development at different points, but never made it all the way. A couple of follow-ups on Us on the Ship and Your Jedi Married, says Stray Bullet. That is correct. And Stray Beans asked a very important question: who is the big spoon? And the answer is, of course, we're both big spoons. Dog.
That's right.
We are huge. We're two huge spoons.
Yeah.
Picking up soup. Pete and I are both soup spoons. Right? We say that about ourselves.
Yeah. There was no cuddling.
Well, I mean, we would walk home. You want to go to the bathroom first? It was the Jedi marriage was really going strong. Question. What song can you play on the stand-up bass, Justin? That's right. For the astute observer, and this is not exciting for those listening, but I have a giant styrofoam stand-up bass behind me.
Check styrofoam, boo. People want a real stand-up bass. You know what I mean?
This is way cooler. It's so big.
That looks like someone who does sketch comedy for a living.
Is
that for the Peanuts? Is that why you have that?
Yes. For many years, we did the Charlie Brown Christmas Live as a charity show.
Got it. Yes.
You nailed it.
I know you so well.
Pigpen plays the stand-up bass famously in that, and it was a fun stuff. Fun, many years of doing that until the corporate overlords have sort of taken it away from us, and that's sad news. Another question from Stanley: Are you happy you went back and watched Doom Patrol? Any other old shows you regret missing? Great question. Doom Patrol, we have our Doom Patrol podcast. It's coming to a close. We have one episode left.
Get in the Doom Room.
Get in the Doom Room. Very fun podcast. One of our more
happy that we did
ones.
that. So happy that we were badgered into doing it, and it became a reality.
We famously secretly recorded 3 seasons of that show, or 2.5 seasons.
We did
maybe?
it for so long, and I was like, "This is so dumb. We have to release these." And they were like, "No, we're going to do another season before we." And I was just like, "Oh my god!"
We dropped them all at once. And yes, I'm very happy. Like, I really like Doom Patrol. It's a weird show. And sometimes that means it's going to miss. But in general, very fun show. Worth watching. I'm very excited to see where they end up.
Yeah, I'm very excited. We're one app away from the ending.
One app away.
So we cannot wait.
Spoiler for the second to last episode. Really great episode. One of the best episodes of this series was the second to last episode.
You're going to laugh. You're going to cry.
But any other old shows you regret missing from a
Arrow
podcast perspective?
Arrow.
Yeah, there has been some talk on our Patreon Slack.
That would have been real nice.
Going back and doing Arrow, and there's no way we could do that. We can't do that. Go back and rewatch Arrow. God, what? I'd have to be in a really bad like jail situation to have that be what we were doing. You know what I mean? Like fully like Man in the Iron Mask level prison. Like I'm Leo Dio.
You could have just said regular prison. You didn't have to be a dick about it. You know what I mean?
No, I'm talking so famous prison books are written about it. You know what I mean? Like the Count of Monte Cristo style jail.
Ooh.
And where I can like, all you can watch is Arrow and then talk about it for 30 to 40 minutes with your friends.
Sounds nice.
Yes, it would be lovely. But any other besides Arrow? I'm trying to think of. I mean, going back, I've been watching old episodes of MacGyver. When I have one of these TV,
like the real one, not MacGruber, like the actual MacGyver.
No, the actual MacGyver. I have like a Samsung TV in there. Whenever I turn it on, it's like, would you want to watch some of our fake networks that have like Baywatch on 24 hours a day? And one of them was showing MacGyver. Mm-hmm. And I watched 2 episodes. I was like, yo, this show is so weird. It's a banger, though. That show is...
I mean, it went for a long time.
The first episode I watched, I swear, is the inspiration for the MacGruber sketch. It's a Murdoch episode where MacGyver's tied to a missile. And Murdoch was his like arch enemy they can never find his corpse. The guy that ran the Phoenix Foundation is his sort of boss who is like goes blind over the course of the series and just shows up at his place randomly. He lived on a houseboat and his houseboat was blown up. Anyway, it's just great stuff.
Sounds like MacGruber.
It is. That's what I'm telling you. That episode, I think, is the inspiration for MacGruber. And I think that's it for your audience questions.
Hey, all right.
And now it's time to turn it over to a man who refuses to not be on the show. He's here, erstwhile earnest and consistent, Pete LePage. Let's welcome out the star of trivia for trivia.
Hey, all right. Yeah, this is the part we give back to you. We need to win $25 free in the form of an online gift card to Midtown Comics. Because if you have $25, you should go to a comic book shop. That's what you should do with that money. So why not win $25 and get yourself some online comics? That sounds like a fun thing. Anyone who wants to... Pablo.
We have Pablo in the comments.
We have Pablo here. It's very exciting. All right, cool. So Pablo, you will type in your answers. And here we go. All right. Today's trivia is on fun comic book facts because
fun facts.
Because Zelda takes all the news for himself. You know
he doesn't take news. And also, you're not breaking news in trivia. Alex is like talking about.
I used to be the cutting edge of the news on the show.
That's not true.
People used to rely on me for the news. And
anyone who gets their news from Pete LePage is a psychopath.
All right. Today's trivia is fun comic book facts and a small nod to the legend Richard Roundtree, R.I.P. Please listen to all 3 options before making your selection, Pablo. Here we go. Question number 1. Berge and company are killing it on DC's The Joker, the Man Who Stopped Laughing. It is so awesome. Highly recommend. Spoilers. But who gets slaughtered in the last issue? Is it A, one of the Jokers, B, not your average Joe, this guy's always on time, or C, Joe Pronto?
A lot of options there. That comic came out today, so
well,
it's a fresh take.
It did. So if you haven't read it today, I don't know what your deal is. It came out today.
That's it's a great point. Strong
Yeah.
choice. Pablo, just type in your answer to the question. Which
Yes,
is
Pablo is correct. It
Pablo.
is
really
A.
nice.
Yeah, here we go. Question number two. How can Thor speak any language? Is it because of the blank, which is A, his willingness to learn and Duolingo, B, the all-tongue, or C, Gordon Parks? Legend.
Oh, yeah. I had a case of the all tongue for a while. You know
Oh,
what I
did
mean?
you?
Yeah, you know what I mean? When you're young, you're out there dating, you have sort of a case of the all tongue.
Interesting.
Wait, are you saying that Thor may have done really committed a Duolingo in the pandemic, and now he speaks
if he
fluent?
could just buckle down, you can learn a new language.
Wait, are you saying Thor doesn't speak English?
That's not what I'm saying. No. He can speak
Pablo says, "Is it A?"
It is A. Feel free
Nice.
to,
Wait, A was Duolingo, I believe.
A was A was Duolingo. It's B, the alt tongue. Pablo, you're supposed to put B, the alt tongue.
Yes, that is
We'll
a rare incorrect. I would say though, Pete, you got it wrong more than Pablo did. So that's a strike against
I don't know
you.
how I feel about that.
Shouts
All
to
right, here we
Michael
go. Last
Tillman.
one, Pablo.
I think the base is probably a good cure for the all tongue. That is correct, Michael Tillman. That is correct.
Okay. Youngblood was the first comic ever published by Image in 1992. But what was the second? Hint,
Good
it
question.
sold more issues. Was it A, Spawn, B, that dude is Weak Sauce, who? C, Alan Weeks.
Wow, this would be a great trivia question with actual answers in it, because I don't know. I wouldn't have necessarily known that. It wasn't Brigade
Well, come on,
number
dude.
one.
First, a comic, on Image. I mean,
Yeah. Pablo says, "A, it is Spawn."
It is Spawn. Yes.
Nice,
and
man.
of course, I am all three of the C answers are in reference to the 1971 OG Shaft.
That's of course correct.
Damn.
I was just thinking.
right.
I literally, as you're talking, I'm like, Alex, shut the music off. I'm like, oh, I'm in.
When's this Alex guy going to show? He's
Dude,
really
Alex,
missing
get
his
on top
mark.
of your shit. Yeah, go and see a movie and not invite your best friends. We're his best friends. Wow, what another great trivia, and shouts to Shaft. I believe it was the Shaft sequel. There's a line where a cop calls him and is like, "Hey, we need your help, Shaft. The sheriff's daughter has gone missing." And he goes, "I got a hand on it," and he slaps the ass of the sheriff's daughter who's in his bedroom with him, and it's just Shaft.
Okay, well that's a little much, but all right.
That's what happened in the movie.
I'm sure
You're celebrating this movie.
I am, yes. For its in its time period, you know what I mean?
Well, I'm just saying, he's just having sex. It's consensual. What are you mad about?
Yeah, I'm not. I'm just saying I don't want to come across as an insensitive person. You know what I mean?
No, I don't think you've ever. No one has ever accused you of being insensitive.
Oh wow, that's interesting. I don't know if that's true.
you are,
Kevin.
correct.
Yes, I am talking about Shaft. You better shut your mouth.
I can dig it. Pete, tomorrow is New
Who
Comic
is the
Book
man?
Day.
Who's the
What
man?
are you looking forward to picking up tomorrow?
Oh my God, there's a lot of.
Today, some comics came out, like the comic that you talked about in the stack.
Well, I'm looking forward to
Or-
the stack because we don't have Daddy Grumpy Pants making things rough for us, so it'll be a nice conversation. I'm looking forward to Birds of Prey number 3.
Wow.
As well as The Joker, the Man Who Stopped Laughing, number 12. There's also Transformers, which is bananas good, and there's a lot of great stuff.
Don't need all the
Sorry.
stacks.
Yeah, I don't want to
because I was going to say Transformers number 2, which is excellent. Daniel Warren Johnson just bringing in a great new take on it, writing and drawing that book. And the whole Transformers and G.I. Joe being in the same universe is a little strange, I think. but I think they're doing a decent job of making it not seem crazy. I also want to shout out House of Slaughter 19, which I really enjoyed, as well as X-Force number 46. That book is wild, but there's some great text pages in this that I really enjoyed, and it is one of the more fun parts of the Fall of X event that we're all enjoying and loving. Folks, that is the show of Comic Book Club.
We did it.
What I'm talking about. That means it's time to say, whoops, that's the beginning.
Oh man. Oh, we blew it. We got to start over now because that's the beginning.
Yeah, we'll start the show over.
Right, let's
shout out to Jonathan Baylis with Sew Buttons.
Yes,
Sew
Button.
We really enjoyed reading. Check out the Kickstarter, support it,
Yes.
and you'll get your own copy at home. You can also pick up Let Me Out from Emmett Nahil,
Yes,
a great comic. Really enjoyed reading that as well. Huge. It's out now from Oni Press. Definitely check it out. And folks, we are always here making podcasts for you. We've got Scott Pilgrim vs. the podcast coming out. That new series is coming soon. Comic Book Club news coming every day, very early in the morning. Alex gets up before dawn. Marvel Vision. You can check us out. Check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Comic Book Club. We have a lot of lively chats. You can meet Stray Bullet in virtual person. Talking about his stuff. You can subscribe on Apple, Android, Spotify, or the app of your choice. Comic Book Club, Comic Book Live on Twitter or X, Comic Book Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Comic Book Live, comicbookclublive.com to check out all of our business. Next week, we've got Nandor Schaefer with from the Fabled Offering, Wells Thompson with Depths, and Jason Michael Primrose with The Arrival. Another great show coming at you. Guys, thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for everybody who was chatting in the chat while we were doing the show. Appreciate you, Michael Tillman, Kevin, Stray Bullies, Pablo.
Good night, everybody.